right, now we got the 8,000 pound 1/4 inch front deck installed. I went ahead and popped them few rivets in the back deck too while I was at it. We can start working on electrical stuff on this boat. I think what I want to do is put our battery in here, but the bad thing about it is, you know, all we have is this. You know, we don't have anything to really secure a battery tray to. So really the only thing I can come up with quickly is to put like some flat bar in there, bend the edges to where we can rivet it on each side. That'll give us something to actually screw the battery tray down to. I think I'm only going to go with one battery on this boat. I'm not even sure if I'm going to put a trolling motor on this boat. I might make a trolling motor mount for it and possibly do some trolling motor plugs, like the flush mount plugs like I've done before. Just a cleaner look in case anybody ever wants to do it. Run the trolling motor lines into here. Might do a fish finder because I have a parts boat that has a fish finder on it and a trolling motor, to be honest with you. So that's why I'm kind of up in there on both of those. But the outboard is a manual start, so we don't need that. We got some lights, you know, navigation lights, and really, I mean, it's not a whole lot of electrical stuff on this boat. I'm up in the air about adding some speakers, like a Bluetooth radio. That's totally not my style. I just want to go ahead and note that. But is sometimes you got to get with the times. You know, it's the going thing. They get boats, they drive them down the river to a sandbar, and they listen to music. I'm not saying it's stupid. It's just not for me. But with selling these boats, you got to appeal to the crowd, and that's what I'm kind of thinking about. I don't know. You guys let me know down there. I probably won't be adding it to this video, but, you know, maybe before I get done with the boat, add a couple speakers and like a little Bluetooth head unit. Anyhow, like I'm saying, not going to be a whole lot of accessories on this boat, I do not think. So one battery in this big hatch. I'm thinking the switch panel right here, so it's easy to access when you're driving the boat. Fuse panel in here, fuse block in there too. What else do we got? Is that it? Maybe. Let's get to work because I hate electrical stuff. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. All right, we'll start with the easy stuff. We're gonna put an anchor light on here. I just picked this one up off eBay, or I think Amazon, for pretty cheap. And somebody already had an anchor light on here, but of course, the holes don't line up because that would just make way too much sense. So I'm gonna try to use some self-tapping screws and see if we can't get this thing attached. There we go. Like I said, that was easy. All I gotta do is run our wire to it. Just sneak these back here, maybe. All right, and we'll wire those up. Now, a smart man would have probably ran some of these wires before putting all this decking and gun box and real nice stuff on, but apparently I'm not one of those. All right. All right, I did a little different thing on my navigation lights this time. Got this little contraption right here off the Amazon. It's not the greatest looking thing. It's going to kind of overhang the back a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be that awful looking. I've been using the strips, but everybody pointed out, and I know, when you put your navigation lights on a boat, you're supposed to be able to see it from an angle too. So if you just run 2 strips on the front of the boat, it's not exactly abiding by Coast Guard laws. Now, if you're not worried that much about, you know, Coast Guard pulling you over or a game warden, you know, I'm not saying that's fine. I'm just saying that's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? But so everybody will stop their belly aching. I got one of these. Of course, if you have a semi-V, you know, with a little bit of a point up front, you're totally fine to put those strips on. And I think the strips look cool because they don't stand out as much. I got this big goody-goody thing right here, which I don't understand. Why's it got to be so big? Why can't it be lopped off right here? Anyhow, I found center. I can push these wires through a pre-existing hole. And then, just like the back, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to find center and just run me a couple self-tapping screws on this one, just like I did the back. Alright, these screws, I'll go back and put a little dab of paint on them to hide them so they're not looking like a sore thumb. I got this nylite light left over from the skiff. I think I put this one in the front of the skiff because it was kind of like a V-hole flat bottom. But anyhow, I put a light on there and it came with two. I couldn't find just a single light, so I got this left over. So what I think I'm going to do is kind of put it on the driver's side. Most people put the trolling motor on this side. So I feel like we'll be safe to put it over here, have it to where it has a little bit of adjustment. But anyhow, let's go ahead and pop this on while we're at it. Alright, lay my battery tray in here. I was going to put it this way, but man, it's so tight getting the battery in and out, so I'm going to put it this way. It's going to eat up a little bit of room, but that's okay. Marked it out, and then I took these little, I think this is 2-inch flat bar aluminum, and bent them up. So basically, I'm a fabricator now, if anybody wants to know my credentials. So all I'm going to do now is drill holes, and then countersink on the outside, and then rivet from the outside to those to screw them in, and then we can get that battery put in place where it's not going to slosh around, and then we can kind of start running our wires and crap. We've got our braces intact, and now we're going to go in with some self-tapping screws and secure that. Make sure your screws aren't too long. You don't want to drill no holes in the bottom of your boat. I got this cute little battery charger from Amazon because it was a Black Friday deal. It's just a 1-bank, so nothing crazy. But I mean, I think it was like 40 something bucks. I mean, Noco's is pretty good stuff. And I also picked up one of these. Now, a lot of you might be thinking this is overkill, but I mean, little stuff like this, you know, where somebody don't have to open the hatch to charge the battery, they can just plug it right in, you know. Little things like that, to me, make your boat stand out from the crowd. If it was my personal boat, I would rather have stuff like this. But with a hidden battery under a hatch, you know, I just think little things like this can really set you apart from the crowd. But that's my opinion, so take that with a grain of salt. All right, so I left a little bit of room to attach this to that brace. I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out. Now we need to install this plug. We're gonna use a hole saw. What size is this? This is a 2-inch. I think it's gonna work. We'll just put it somewhere. We'll just put it somewhere along right here, let's say. I think that'll be okay. All right, drill this hole, put it in. I mean, that's kind of cut and dry. All right, for a switch panel, I picked up this nylite. What has it got? 5 switches, and it has a USB and like a cigarette lighter. They're all fused, but I'm probably going to snip the wires on them and run them all to a fuse block. That way they're all individually powered instead of having, you know, they're all piggybacked on each other, and it's a little bit better in my opinion to go ahead and make them all separate. So I'm going to do that, but first we need to go ahead and cut out a hole. I think I'm just going to put it a little bit to this side, but you know, we got that foam right there, so it'll be like right here. Go ahead and cut the hole out for that. Get in there. All right, there we go. Did I get that on film? I think I did. All right, that's pretty good, but we don't want to attach it yet because I got to run all the wires to it. I got my master fabricating skills back to work and made this right here. And what I plan on doing with it is pushing it up under here. It fits, believe me, because I'm a master fabricator. Just doesn't give me problems now. Anyhow, it's going to go on that little bar we made earlier for the battery, and I'll probably just screw it to that and then do me a couple rivets up top It's going to give us a little floor support for one thing, but what I plan on, give that to me, plan on doing is adding a battery disconnect switch to it, and then right below it, fuse block. Somebody pointed out in one of my videos it'd be a good idea to raise the fuse block off the floor, which makes sense. I mean, we have what, an inch of foam. You're about to severely be in the water for, you know, even if you had it on the floor, but it will kind of free up a little space for us by putting it on this. Like I said, I needed somewhere to put this, so might as well put one more thing on it too. So what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and wire this up to my battery, and the other end will go to the fuse block. So everything will be kind of tidy right here in this space anyways. And we can go ahead and get those two things wired together, mounted on this, and get this mounted to there. And then I think all we like is really just running our wires. So, all right, let's do it. So what I have did is went ahead and run me 2 wires. This back of this, well, I can show you. I went ahead and run me 2 wires, copper connectors, and heat shrinked it to the back of my disconnect switch, which one wire is going to go to the positive side of the battery. This side is going to go to the positive side of our fuse block, which you see I had to notch it a little bit. That way it will fit on the little prong. And then we have, then I made me a negative lead, which will go from the negative side of the battery to the negative side of our little fuse block. So what I can do now is go ahead and attach our kill switch. I dropped it down so our hatch doesn't hit it. Probably gonna wait on putting this on. We'll attach this lead to it and the negative lead, but I'm not gonna attach it to our little brace we have here until we get everything wired up. It's gonna be a lot easier to work on if I can kind of pull it up and attach all the wires to it. So, all right, let's go ahead and do those couple things and move on to the next step. All right, this is what I was talking about. Got this hooked up. We have our positive that goes to the battery. We have the other positive snaked around to our fuse block. Positive side, and then the negative side of the fuse block. And the negative side of the fuse block is hooked up to what will be the negative lead to the battery. So now that we have basically all of our, I guess, framework for what we're doing done, now we can start fishing wires, which I've really been dreading doing this because I should have done it before I put that gun box in. Y'all forgot to tell me. We are putting a bilge pump on here, and I've already got the hose connected, and I've got the wires run for it. I was waiting on this line. I thought I had one. That's why I'm just now getting to the bilge pump. All right, I got this mount right here I just made. All I took was like a piece of road sign and bent it to the angle of the transom in the bottom of the boat. And I took the bottom off. You see, I just drilled 3 screws through it. You have a little bit of clearance in here because you see this bottom thing, it's kind of got an angle to the sides. You just make sure you don't want anything in the impeller part. But anyhow, I drilled them screws through, and then I cut them all flush. And then I've got this like 1/8 inch foam that I got. It's like sticky on one side. I put it on the bottom, that way it's not like metal on metal contact. You know, if this thing vibrates some, it won't wear a hole in the bottom of the boat over the years, which I'm guessing that would take a long time. But just to be safe, that's what I did. I got me a couple holes drilled in here, and all I'm gonna do is set it down close to this brace like that, and then put me 2 self-tapping screws in. You know, put plenty of silicone in these holes and around it and stuff to keep any moisture from getting to the transom wood. So it's pretty cut and dry. Once I get that mounted, all I gotta do is plop this in, connect my wires up, and that's it. I'm not gonna go through the transom with this pipe. I'm just gonna run it, snake it up through here, and dump it out, you know, on the back of the transom. You know, maybe you think that's ugly or whatever, but I just feel like on a boat like this, that's a little bit better option than drilling an extra hole, you know, below the water line or really anywhere in your boat. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that out, and then I think we can go ahead and move on to hooking all these wires up. Okay, so we got all of our wires ran into our little battery compartment here. And I'm going to try to explain this kind of fast, but I don't want to get too detailed about it. The switch panel, like I said, was all piggybacked. And what I did was snip the wires that were going to each other. And then I just put these little nuts on them, and I packed them with marine grease on the inside, then screwed them on. I saw that little tip on No Nonsense Know How, and he swears it's like one of the best ways to keep any moisture out, and I guess it makes sense. You can see I got marine grease in there. Oh, crap, got it on my finger. So I snipped those, blocked those off. So now we just have 2 wires for each switch. One will go to whatever we're trying to power, like the red wire coming from the bilge pump, and the other one will go to our fuse block. All right, so with the navigation lights, I got the anchor light and the navigation lights tied together. So they're coming through, and the ground is tied together right here and going to the negative side of our fuse block. And then the positive side is tied together right here, is going to the middle wire on the switch, this first switch. And of course, all these grounds are still looped together. This ground is going to the ground side of the fuse block too. So that'll ground all the switches. All right, so that leaves us with this middle wire that we tied in to this fuse block right here. We popped us a fuse in, and supposedly we got the negative and positive sides hooked up. So in theory, we should be able to turn this first switch on and get some lights. All right, so the light came on, so that's good. Hey, we got an anchor light. Let's see if our navigation lights are on too. All right, we're ready to rock and roll. It did have, if you remember, they had like a fuse on the back of each one, which I just cut off because there's no sense of having these double fused. All this stuff is pretty low volt stuff, so it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I guess I could have left them on there and just double fused it, but I don't really see the sense in that. And it'd just be more nonsense going on, a lot of just hectic, bulky stuff. I'm trying to thin it out some. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hook up all the rest of these. I did leave these piggyback together, in which this switch will be tied on to all this. It'll be let us know how much voltage we got, the cigarette lighter, and the USB, and whatever this switch is. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't even really figured out how many switches I'm gonna need. Hopefully 5. Like I said, I'm gonna go through here, hook all this stuff up, and then I'll bring you back once everything is hooked up. I'd like to point out that I'm using marine wire or tinned copper. You can tell if you got the right wire. As you can see, if you strip it back, it's silver looking, it's tinned. It's not just copper. Just regular copper wire will corrode with getting around water and stuff. So a little more expensive, but it'll save you a lot of trouble down the road. I have some of these little cheap lights. I mean, they're super cheap. I put one right here in this gun box, just riveted in. And then I put another one right here. I riveted it too, and I just use regular rivets on that because that lid that I'm using, it has like an empty space right here, and I put the lid up and I marked where the bolts are going to be, or the screws to hold the lid down. So we'll get by with these rivets. Anyways, put those two in and wired them together. I just had them, and it's good to have a little light in case you're out at dark and you have a wire come off or something. You'll be able to see halfway what you're doing. Well, all right, I think I got everything wired up. I don't have that completely screwed in yet, and of course I don't have the fuse block mounted yet, and I have a whole lot of cleaning up to do on the wires. But we should be able to hook the battery up, turn our kill switch on, and hopefully we got some power. All right, got its battery hooked up. Turn it on. Like I said, it'll turn on and read you how much voltage you got. I'm hoping that's not going to be too much of a draw. You could definitely put a switch in line with that, or make it to where that one actually cuts this on and off. I'm trying to remember where everything is. I think this is the navigation lights. anchor light. Of course, we already saw that these were working. They are. And I believe this one is the spotlight. You can see it's on by the reflection in my truck. This middle one is the bilge pump, I believe. We bilging back there. Go ahead and turn that off. It's annoying. This one is my little box lights. You see that one's lit up. That one's lit up. And that's it, as of right now. Like I said, if you don't want to run your battery down, just turn your kill switch. And that's going to kill the power to that. So there's probably a little bit better way to do that, but that's just how I have it right now. I might change that at a later date. I think I'm going to use that switch for something else. Like I said, I'm still on the line about the speaker thing, so that could go to it. Or I've got some of them green interior lights that I might try to figure out some way to run. Have to see how it goes. But that is the wiring, at least what I'm going to wire right now. I have to clean all this stuff up. Like I said, I got wire looms to put on all these exposed wires. We have to mount the fuse panel and clean up all these wires we have in here and secure this faceplate. All right, let's do that and I'll bring you back. We got everything pretty cleaned up. Still have a few loose ends. I didn't fully connect the navigation lights up front and that spotlight because I want to run them over the hydro turf. So instead of having to cut them again, I just kind of twist them together just to make sure everything works. And I still need to go back in the battery box area and add some foam and kind of close it in and tidy that up. Might be adding some more electronics, like I said, a stereo. What do you guys think? Do you think that's kind of silly? And keep in mind, like I said, you know, it might not be your thing, but do you think it would be worth it as a selling point? Because that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I don't think it's really going to, I mean, I think you can get a head unit with 2 speakers for like 140 bucks. I mean, that's not too bad. Not a whole lot of cost, and I don't think it'd be that hard to wire up. It's just Bluetooth stuff, so not too bad of a job to do and not very expensive. All right, I'm really glad the electrical stuff's done. I'd probably make it out to be a little bit harder than it is, at least to me. I just don't like electrical stuff. I had to replace a GFI in my house the other day because I got a smoker and I've had one out on my back porch for a while, and I dreaded doing that. I don't know, just some things I don't like. Electricity doesn't click with me. I'd much rather be sawing on something, cutting some wood or something. It's not my forte. But like I said, I think it's just something in my brain that kind of wants to block electrical stuff, because it's really not that bad. The hardest part is wiring everything up to your switch panel. And once you get the hang of it, you know, it's not that bad. I didn't have to do what I did, but that's the way I wanted to do it. So I'm sure some of them armchair boat builders will jump in the comments down there and let me know what I did wrong and what I should have done. But I'm not ashamed to say that I'm not a master electrician. Apparently after this video, I am a master fabricator though. But anyhow, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you on the next one.